All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Book Club of Enoch. My name is Paxton Pritchett, and today it's going to be a neat episode. We are going to be finishing up First Enoch, the first part of the First Enoch, called the Book of the Watchers. If you read First Enoch, you usually will find a few different, it's made up of different books, so to speak. Like the first one's the Book of the Watchers. Then you have the Book of the Parables, which we will be starting probably in a few weeks. Even though today we're going to finish reading the Book of the Watchers, the first part, we're still going to probably spend hopefully next week doing a little bit of work in the Book of the Watchers still. Maybe like this week we'll read it. Next week we'll dive deeper into different parts. So yeah, welcome everybody to Everyday Mythos' The Book Club of Enoch. The Book Club of Enoch is a weekly live stream here on Everyday Mythos where we read through the Book of Enoch. First Enoch, as it's called many times, is a book that's mostly, if not completely, a Second Temple Jewish book, meaning it was written during the time of the Second Temple of the Jews, written between the Old and New Testament for most, if not all of it. And in this book, we can learn about how some Jews were thinking during that time period. How were some Jews contemplating the Bible, the Old Testament, so to speak, or contemplating the Messiah? How were they thinking about that during the time period between the First Temple and the Second Temple? The Old Testament and the New Testament during the Second Temple Jewish period. That's what the Book of Enoch can help us see. Not that this would be the only views out there, but that this would be a view out there of the Second Temple Jewish world. And in it, we can even, it's like maybe even some of the people who were living during Christ's time, maybe this is how even some of them, when they were thinking of the Messiah, this is some of the stuff they'd be thinking about. So what we saw, first off, if you haven't subscribed to Everyday Mythos, please feel free to subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. Like and subscribe, and feel free to share our content. Everyday Mythos is a YouTube channel that we love to dive into the Bible and to look at different things in the Bible, whether it be in theology or things like that. This isn't really the best sales pitch, I acknowledge. But yeah, it's been a fun YouTube journey. But one of the things we do here is the Book Club of Enoch. We read through it weekly, read through the Book of Enoch. So without further ado, let's start diving into the Book of Enoch, diving into the rest of the Book of the Watchers. So if for some reason you have a question about this, or maybe the audio quality or something's like absolutely off, or if you have a question about the Book of Enoch, please feel free to put it in our comment section, and I would love to see that. And I may not have a good answer, but maybe we could learn it together if for some reason I don't know the answer to it. But if you have any questions about it, we'd love to hear from you. All right, so let's see. For this, we're going to begin first with a little bit of review, and then we're going to run into new uncharted territory. For this, I am pretty excited. Let's see. Before we do this, I apologize. I do not have my phone with me, and my phone acts as my second screen. So I'm going to very quickly... I have a friend, my roommate here, who is being an amazing person and handing me the phone. Thank you, sir. So yeah, dude, that was epic. All right, so now I have my phone with me, and I'm going to real quickly look up and find the video just to have a second screen on me. Sorry, this is so unprofessional of me. And then we'll get started into the Book of Enoch. Let's see. Where is it at? Let's see. There we go. Let's see. All right, man. All right. Sorry. Yeah, it's been a little awkward. I should have probably done this beforehand, but I did not. One last little thing to do. If for some reason you're watching this not live, feel free to skip till about 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I think that'll be enough time to actually get this taken care of. Then we'll be started. My bad, everybody. All right. So we are back. Sorry, everybody, about that. I should have been a little more professional and gotten that taken care of. So basically, we are going to be diving into the last bit of the first part of the book of Enoch. But before we do that, let's do a little bit of review. So, what have we learned so far in the book of So in the book of Enoch, this first part of the book of Enoch, the book of the Watchers, we have learned, let's see, let me pull up. See if I can pull up sorry, I'm making y'all watch all that. Let's see real quickly if it will look. Thank you. There you go. So at the first part of the book of Enoch, and for this, it begins with first a prophecy from Enoch. It begins as though Enoch was writing this prophecy, and that lasts the first 5 chapters. And it's in there that we the quote from the New Testament. The New Testament. This is where the New Testament quotes the book of Enoch in the book of Jude. And after these 5 chapters of prophecy, it then moves into some story content. The story is the story that you may have heard, and probably it's the thing that has intrigued you about the book of Enoch, and that is the story of the Watchers, the sons of God, these angelic beings who come down to earth and have children, excuse me, with the daughters of men. And they don't just have children with the daughters of men, but they also teach humanity a bunch of heavenly secrets. And these heavenly secrets that they teach them were not good things. They weren't things that humanity, at least maybe they weren't all bad in and of itself, but or maybe they were. I don't remember for sure. But basically, they weren't things that we were supposed to learn. And so much chaos ensues because of it. And basically, with that comes the world crying out to God for help. The earth cries out to heaven for help. And so what happens is that the angels of heaven then take it to God. They say basically to God, please help humanity. And it looks at 4 angels who are like Michael, Uriel, Gabriel, and a few other kind of these higher up angels, it seems. Or these angels, they call to God for help. And then we hear God's punishment of the Watchers. So the way God communicates this punishment to the Watchers is through Enoch. Enoch's this guy who, according to the book of Enoch, looking at kind of the story within Enoch, he's this guy living amongst the spiritual beings while he's on earth. Like, I don't think it says that he's been like transported to heaven yet. Maybe it has, but like he's basically chilling with angels. And he gets this mission to go to the Watchers, these angels that have sinned by defiling themselves with women, and to tell them their punishment. And their punishment is basically they are going to basically be thrown in a spiritual prison, an abyss, so to speak. But before that, they're going to have to watch their children, the giants that they gave birth to. They're going to have to, or that their wives gave birth to, they're going to have to watch them be destroyed. And these giants were havocing so much chaos upon the earth, it seems. So Enoch goes and he shares this message from God to the Watchers. And all the Watchers, they are really upset about this. They don't like the punishment that's coming. And so they plead with Enoch for Enoch to plead to God on their behalf. And basically, hey, God, can you actually not punish us for this evil? And basically, so Enoch does that. He goes, he prays this prayer, then he falls to sleep. And in his sleep, he has this vision of God. And when he wakes up, he goes and tells it to the Watchers. And that's been where we've been at, where it's like Enoch, I guess, is recounting his vision to the Watchers. And for this vision took him to where he went and saw the throne room of God. he saw this, what looked to be almost this heavenly temple of sorts, where it's like you had this gate or this wall, and within the wall was this house, and within the house was another house, a very exotic imagery. And within the house, in a house, you have something like the throne of God. And God speaks with Enoch. And then after this, Enoch goes on this tour of in this spiritual, fantastic dream, so to speak, in this apocalyptic dream. Enoch goes on this tour, and that's where we found him. He went to the prison of the Watchers, where the Watchers would be thrown into prison, was one of the main places he went to. And that's where we pick up today, is that we are going to be looking at Enoch as he does more of this spiritual tour. And that's going to be the rest of the book of the Watchers. So if you could summarize the book of the Watchers really zoomed out, it's basically, it begins with a prophecy. Then it moves into the story of the Watchers. And then it looks at Enoch's journey in heaven. So those are kind of like the three parts, so to speak, if you want to think of it that way. It's like you have that first prophecy, then you have the story of the Watchers, then you have Enoch in heaven. Those are like three parts of it, so to speak. So today, I did not get the like usual, get the text on the screen. So we're not going to be looking on the screen at the text. Instead, I'm just going to be reading it. But you're more than welcome to, if you have a copy of the Book of Enoch, to read along with me. Or what's really cool is the version we're using of the Book of Enoch, though I've heard it's not the best version, it is a version that you can find pretty easily online. So like you can just look up the Book of Enoch, and then you look up R.H. Charles translation. R.H. Charles translation. So the Book of Enoch, R.H. Charles, R as in race, H as in high, Charles as in Charles, and translation, or Book of Enoch, probably 1917, because that's when I think it came out. Did it come out 17? I don't know. So you can type in the Book of Enoch, R.H. Charles translation, and you can find it pretty easily for free. So you're definitely more than welcome to do that. I'm looking at a website called sacredtexts.com. And on this website, they have the Book of Enoch, R.H. Charles translation completely for free. And so that's where we're going to be at for today as we continue this journey with Enoch through this epic vision. So that's where we begin. None other than chapter 22. Remember, we just looked at the place where the angels would be punished. And so that's where we begin off, is Enoch has just looked at the place where the angels will be punished. And then we look to chapter 22. Now, the fascinating thing about chapter 22 in the book, in the R.H. Charles translation, is that for much of it, there are different versions you can read. And I'm going to refrain from speaking more about that because I don't know for sure why that is. I can do a little research for next week to figure out why. But basically, it looks like there are two different versions of this text. I'm sure it goes back to maybe like earlier languages or different manuscripts of it. Yeah, different manuscripts maybe in different languages of it. But yeah, it's basically there's basically two different versions of chapter 22. So we're going to read both of them and as we read along with this. So the first version will go something like this. Chapter 22 of 1st Enoch. And thence I went to another place, and he showed me in the west another great and high mountain, and of hard rock. And there was in it 4 hollow places, deep and wide, and very smooth. How smooth are the hollow places, and deep and dark to look at. Then Raphael answered, one of the holy angels who was with me, and said to me, these hollow places have been created for this very purpose, that the spirits of the souls of the dead should assemble therein. Yea, that all the souls of the children of men should assemble here. And these places have been made to receive them till the day of their judgment, until their appointed period, till the period appointed, till the great judgment comes upon them. I saw the spirits of the children of men who were dead, and their voice went forth to heaven and made sweet. Then I asked Raphael, the angel who was with me, and I said unto him, This spirit, whose is it, whose voice goes forth and maketh suit? And he answered me, saying, This is the spirit which went forth from Abel, whom his brother Cain slew. And he makes his suit against him till his seed is destroyed from the face of the earth, and his seed is annihilated from amongst the seed of men. Then I asked regarding it, and regarding all the hollow places, why as one separated from another, or from the other? And he answered me, and said unto me, These three have been made that the spirits of the dead might be separated. And such a division has been made for the spirits of the righteous, in which there as the bright spring of water. And such has been made for sinners when they die, and are buried in the earth, and judgment has not been executed on them in their lifetime. Here their spirits shall be set apart in this great pain, till the great day of judgment, and punishment, and torment, and those who curse forever, and retribution for their spirits. There he shall bind them forever. And such a division has been made for the spirits of those who make their suit, who make disclosures concerning their destruction, when they were slain in the days of the sinners. Such has been made for the spirits of men who are not righteous, but sinners, who are complete in transgression, and of the transgressors. They shall be companions, but their spirits shall not be slain in the day of judgment, nor shall they be raised from thence. Then I blessed the Lord of glory, and said, Blessed be my Lord, the Lord of righteousness, who ruleth forever. So that's chapter 22. And in that we saw, so Enoch sees this place where humans go after they die. And he sees the three different areas for them. If I remember right, I think it's one for the righteous and two different ones for the sinners. And so that's one version of chapter 22. Now we're going to read the second version of chapter 22 in the R.H. Charles translation. It says, And thence I went to another place, and he showed me in the west another great and high mountain, and of hard rock. And there were 4 hollow places in it, deep and very smooth. 3 of them were dark, and 1 bright. And there was a fountain of water in its midst. And I said, How smooth are the hollow places, and deep and dark to view. Then Raphael answered, one of the holy angels who sat with me, or who was with me, and said unto me, These hollow places have been created for this very purpose, that the spirits of the souls of the dead should assemble therein. Yea, that all the souls of the children of men should assemble here. And these places have been made to receive them till the day of their judgment, and till their appointed period, till the period appointed, till the great judgment comes upon them. I saw the spirit of a dead man making suit, and his voice went forth to heaven and made suit. And I asked Raphael, the angel who was with me, and I said unto me, This spirit which maketh suit, who is it? Whose voice goeth forth and maketh suit to heaven? And he answered me, saying, This is the spirit which went forth from Abel, whom his brother Cain slew, and he makes his suit against him till his seed is destroyed from the face of the earth, and his seed is annihilated from amongst the seed of men. Then I asked regarding all the hollow places, Why is one separated from the other? And he answered me, saying, These things have been made that the spirits of the dead might be separated, and this division has been made for the spirits of the righteous, in which there is the bright spring of water, and this has been made for sinners. When they die, excuse me, and are buried in the earth, and judgment has not been executed upon them in their lifetime, here their spirits shall be set apart in the great pain, till the great day of judgment, scourgings and torments of the accursed forever, so that there may be retribution for their spirits. There he shall bind them forever. And this division has been made for the spirits of those who make their suit, who make disclosures concerning their destruction, when they were slain in the days of the sinners. And this has been made for the spirits of men who shall not be righteous, but sinners, who are godless, and of the lawless they shall be companions. But their spirits shall not be punished in the day of judgment, nor shall they be raised from thence. Then I blessed the Lord of glory and said, Blessed art thou, Lord of righteousness, who rulest over the world. So that is chapter 22 in both versions, so to speak, that the R.H. Charles translation has. A lot of it is similar, but then as you read R.H. Charles translation, what you'll see is like columns, one of like where the text is different than the other, and then they'll go back to being the same, and they'll split apart and being different again. And next week, we'll talk a little bit maybe about why that is, why people think that is that way. So, chapter 23. From thence I went to another place, to the west of the ends of the earth, and I saw a burning fire which ran without resting, and paused, not from its course day or night, but ran regularly. And I asked, saying, Why is this which rests not? What is this which rests not? Then Ragiel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me, and said unto me, This course of fire which thou hast seen is the fire in the west, which persecutes all the luminaries of heaven. So last chapter we saw where the humans go when they die, so to speak. The spirits of the humans go when they die. We saw it dissected into 3 different areas, 2 for the wicked, 1 for the righteous. Now in chapter 23, it says that he sees this perpetual fire that's burning, and the angel that's with him tells him that this fire basically is to persecute the luminaries of heaven, meaning like the stars of heaven. Probably a reference to the angels. Probably a reference in particular to the wicked angels, if I was to guess. So, chapter 24. And from thence I went to another place of the earth, and he showed me a mountain range of fire which burnt day and night. And I went beyond it, and saw 7 magnificent mountains, all differing each from the other. And the stones thereof were magnificent and beautiful, magnificent as a whole, of glorious appearance and fair exterior. 3 towards the east, one founded one on the other, and 3 towards the south, one upon the other, and deep rough ravines, no one of which joined with any other. And the 7th mountain was in the midst of these, and it excelled them in height, resembling the seat of a throne, and fragrant trees encircled the throne. And amongst them was a tree such as I had never yet smelt, neither was any amongst them, nor were others like it. It had a fragrance beyond all fragrance, and its leaves and blooms and wood wither not forever. And its fruit is beautiful, and its fruit resembles the dates of a palm. Then I said, How beautiful is this tree, and fragrant, and its leaves are fair, and its blooms very delightful in appearance. Then answered Michael, one of the holy and honored angels, who was with me, and was their leader. So in the next chapter, we're going to see Michael's response. In that chapter, Enoch sees these 7 mountains, and the one in the center, it seems to be resembling a throne. And it seems that on it is this tree, this garden of sorts, or at least this tree, and it smells amazing. It says, amongst them was a tree as I had never yet smelled. And so it says that the fragrant trees encircled the throne. So Enoch's curious about what is this tree that's in the midst of the throne of God, or this throne, what is it? And he said unto me, Enoch, why dost thou ask me regarding the fragrance of this tree, and why dost thou wish to learn the truth? Then I answered him, saying, I wish to know about everything, but especially this tree. And he answered, saying, This high mountain, which thou hast seen, whose summit is like the throne of God, is his throne, where the holy great one, the Lord of glory, the eternal King, will sit, when he shall come down to visit the earth with goodness. And as for this fragrant tree, no mortal is permitted to touch it till the great judgment, when he shall take vengeance on all and bring everything to its consummation forever. It shall then be given to the righteous and holy. Its fruit shall be for food to the elect. It shall be transplanted to the holy place, to the temple of the Lord, the eternal King. Then shall they rejoice with joy and be glad, and into the holy place shall they enter, and its fragrance shall be in their bones, and they shall live a long life on earth, such as thy fathers lived, and in their days shall no sorrow or plague or torment or calamity touch them. Then blessed I the God of glory, the eternal King, who hath prepared such things for the righteous, and hath created them and promised to give to them. So in this chapter, in the last chapter, Enoch was curious about what is this beautiful, this wonderfully smell on this tree. And now Michael explains to him what this tree is, or how this tree is basically near the throne of God, and how basically this is the throne where God will dwell when he comes to earth. So this was written in between probably the Old and New Testament, and they're wondering what's the future going to be like. And here we see that some Jews were thinking, probably from having read their Old Testament, this idea of God coming to earth. It says, he shall come down to visit the earth with goodness. So could it be that as the Jews of this time, their imagination was wondering, God dwelling on earth? And the cool thing about this is, like, for us as Christians, we believe that God did come to dwell on earth because the person of Jesus Christ is God the Son, God in flesh, and that someday he will come back and reign again in the presence of God, reigning visibly on earth. We believe that that will happen someday. So this hope that it seems that even in the book of Enoch, Jews are speculating about in the Second Temple period, we know that this hope will be fulfilled because Christ did come to earth and he will return to earth. And so he then goes on to mention that this tree that's beside the throne, no one is able to touch. No one's able to go to it. Perhaps that touch there is maybe a reference to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil will come up in this. So I wonder if that's what it's talking about. Or maybe the tree of life. We'll read more and discover more as we read. But basically this tree, whatever this tree is that's near the throne of God, it's going to be taken up and placed in the temple of God. It's kind of the prophecy here that, or what Enoch is being told will happen in the future. And then after this, he then describes just what this future event will be like. He says, then shall they rejoice with joy and be glad, and into the holy place shall they enter. And its fragrance shall be in their bones, and they shall live a long life on earth, such as thy fathers lived. And in their days shall no sorrow or plague or torment or calamity touch them. So we see here this idea that the future is looking bright for Enoch. Enoch's looking at the future, allegedly, and we can know that as the Second Temple Jews were writing this, it seems that what they were probably thinking was of the future whenever God will come and make things right. And so how does Enoch finish this chapter? It's with praise. Then blessed I the God of glory, the eternal King, who hath prepared such things for the righteous, and hath created them, and promised to give to them. All right, then we move on to chapter 26. It says, and I went from thence to the middle of the earth, and I saw a blessed place, in which there were trees with branches abiding and blooming of a dismembered tree. And there I saw a holy mountain, and underneath the mountain, to the east, there was a stream, and it flowed towards the south. And I saw towards the east another mountain higher than this, and between them a deep and narrow ravine. In it also ran a stream underneath the mountain. And to the west thereof there was another mountain, lower than the former and of small elevation, and a ravine deep and dry between them. And another deep and dry ravine was at the extremities of the three mountains. And all the ravines were deep and narrow, being formed of hard rock, and trees were not planted upon them. And I marveled at the rocks, and I marveled at the ravine. Yea, I marveled very much. And then in chapter 26 or 27, we're going to see here another moment where it splits into two different versions. You have one version, and then you'll have another. So we'll read both of them. And they'll be very similar, but we'll just go ahead and read both of them as well. So here's kind of the first version of chapter 27. Then said I, for what object is this blessed land, which is entirely filled with trees, and this accursed valley between? Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who is with me answered and said, "This accursed valley is for those who are cursed forever. Here shall all the accursed be gathered together who utter with their lips against the Lord unseemly words, and of his glory speak hard things. Here shall they be gathered together, and here shall their place of judgment. And here shall be their place of judgment. In the last days there shall be upon them the spectacle of righteous judgment in the presence of the righteous forever. Here shall the merciful bless the Lord of glory, the eternal King. In the days of judgment over the former, they shall bless him for the mercy in accordance with which he has assigned them their lot. Then I blessed the Lord of glory and set forth his glory and lauded him gloriously." So that's the first version of chapter 27. The other version of chapter 27 reads like this, and most of it will be the same. I'll let you know when it starts going different. "Then said I, for what object is this blessed land, which is entirely filled with trees, and this accursed valley between? Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered and said, This accursed valley is for those who are cursed forever. Here shall all the accursed be gathered together who utter with their lips against the Lord unseemly words, and of his glory speak hard things." And here's where it looks a little different. "Here shall they be gathered together, and here shall be the place of their habitation. In the last times, in the days of the true judgment, in the presence of the righteous forever. Here shall the godly bless the Lord of glory, the eternal King. In the days of judgment over the former, they shall bless him for the mercy in accordance with which he has assigned them their lot. Then I blessed the Lord of glory and set forth his glory and lauded him gloriously." Chapter 28. "And thence I went towards the south, into the midst of the mountain range of the desert. And I saw a wilderness, and it was solitary, full of trees and plants. And water gushed forth from above, rushing like a copious watercourse, which flowed towards the northwest. It caused clouds and dew to ascend on every side." Sorry about that. So chapter 29. "And thence I went to another place in the desert, and approached to the east of this mountain range. And there I saw aromatic trees, exhaling the fragrance of frankincense and myrrh, and the trees also were similar to the almond tree." Chapter 30. "And beyond these I went afar to the east, and I saw another place, a valley full of water, and therein there was a tree, the color of fragrant trees, such as the mastic. And on the sides of those valleys I saw fragrant cinnamon. And beyond these I proceeded to the east." So Enoch's continuing his journey in these chapters. And then in chapter 31, he continues and says, "And I saw other mountains, and amongst them were groves of trees, and there flowed forth from them nectar, which is named Sarara, and Galbanum." I probably butchered both of those. "And beyond these mountains I saw another mountain, to the east of the ends of the earth, whereon were aloe trees, and all the trees were full of stacked, being like almond trees. And when one burnt it, it smelt sweeter than any fragrant odor." All right, now chapter 32, once again, we're going to have two different versions of it. So we'll read one version first and then the other as well. "And after these fragrant odors, as I looked towards the north over the mountains, I saw 7 mountains full of choice nard and fragrant trees and cinnamon and pepper. And thence I went over the summits of all these mountains, far towards the east and of the earth, and passed above the Ethiopian sea, and went far from it, and passed over the angel Zotiel. And I came to the garden of righteousness, and saw beyond those trees many large trees growing there, and of goodly fragrance, large, very beautiful and glorious, and the tree of wisdom, whereof they eat and know great knowledge, great wisdom. The tree is in height like the fir, and its leaves are like those of the carob tree, and its fruit is like the clusters of the vine, very beautiful. And the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. Then I said, how beautiful is the tree, and how attractive is its look. Then Raphael, the holy angel who was with me, answered me and said, This is the tree of wisdom, of which thy father old in years and thy aged mother, who were before thee, have eaten, and they learnt wisdom, and their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they were driven out of the garden. So that's one version of chapter 32. Now we'll look at the other version, which is similar, but it'll be a little different. It says, To the northeast I beheld 7 mountains, full of choice nard, and mastic, and cinnamon, and pepper. And thence I went over the summits of all these mountains, far towards the east of the earth, and passed above the Etherian sea, and went far from it, and passed over the angel Zotiel. And I came to the garden of righteousness, and from afar off trees more numerous than these trees, and great, 2 trees there, very great, beautiful, and glorious, and magnificent, and the tree of knowledge, whose holy fruit they eat, and know great wisdom. The tree is in height like the fir, and its leaves are like those of the carob tree, and its fruit is like the clusters of the vine, very beautiful, and the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. Then I said, How beautiful is the tree, and how attractive is its look. Then Raphael, the holy angel who was with me, answered me and said, This is the tree of wisdom, of which thy father old in years and thy aged mother, who were before thee, have eaten, and they learnt wisdom, and their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they were driven out of the garden. So here we see that Enoch sees the garden of righteousness, which seems to be the Garden of Eden. And in there he sees the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which seems to be called the tree of wisdom. And so he sees those things, and he's reminded of the story of Adam and Eve, which, if you're familiar with the Bible, God created Adam, placed him in a garden, and God created Eve. And he had one command for man, which is, one of the commands for man, so to speak, was do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And Adam ate from it. Eve listened to the serpent and ate from the tree. And Adam ate as well. And then because of this evil that they did, they were cast out of the Garden of Eden, which it's so beautiful because the story continues. And in Christ, we now have access to God. And someday, it talks about in Revelation, the beautiful idea of the New Jerusalem, which is very similar to the Garden of Eden. And kind of we see this idea in the Bible of us being reconnected with God, even though because of Adam's sin, we were separated, so to speak. And so, but in the midst of all that, we have here in Second Temple Jewish literature, a look at Enoch seeing the Garden of Eden, calling it the Garden of Righteousness in this really fascinating book. And he sees what they call the tree of wisdom, or in one version, the tree of knowledge. So, chapter 33, And from thence I went to the ends of the earth, and saw there great beasts, and each differed from the other. And I saw birds also differing in appearance, and beauty, and voice, the one differing from the other. And to the east of those beasts I saw the ends of the earth, whereon the heaven rests, and the portals of the heavens open. And I saw how the stars of heaven come forth, and I counted the portals out of which they proceed, and wrote down all their outlets, of each individual star by itself, according to their number and their names, their courses and their positions, and their times and their months, as Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, showed me. He showed all the things to me, and wrote them down for me. Also their names he wrote for me, and their laws and their companies. That's right, angel. That's right, stars own companies now. No, I'm kidding. But it does say companies there. I'm sure in 1917 when he wrote that, they weren't thinking of like corporations. But really, right here in chapter 33, we see Enoch gets to see the night sky, and he learns all of these ways that the stars move about. And Uriel, an angel, even tells him these things. And so this moves on to chapter 34. And it says, And from thence I went towards the north to the ends of the earth. And there I saw a great and glorious device at the ends of the whole earth. And here I saw 3 portals of heaven open in the heaven. Through each of them proceed north winds. When they blow, there is cold, hail, frost, snow, dew, and rain. And out of one portal, they blow for good. But when they blow through the other two portals, it is with violence and affliction on the earth, and they blow with violence. So if I was to guess here, it seems that Enoch is now looking at the origin of weather, where different weather things come from. And it seems to come from these portals. And so then we move on to chapter 35. And from thence I went towards the west to the ends of the earth, and saw there 3 portals of the heaven, open such as I had seen in the east, the same number of portals and the same number of outlets. Chapter 36. And from thence I went to the south, to the ends of the earth, and saw there 3 open portals of the heaven, and thence there come dew, rain, and wind. And from thence I went to the east, to the ends of the earth, and saw here the 3 eastern portals of heaven open, and small portals above them. Through each of these portals, these small portals, pass the stars of heaven, and run their course to the west on the path which is shown to them. And as often as I saw, I blessed always the Lord of glory. And I continued to bless the Lord of glory, who has wrought great and glorious wonders, to show the greatness of his work to the angels and to spirits and to men, that they might praise his work and all his creation, that they might see the work of his might and praise the great work of his hands and bless him forever. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the Book of the Watchers. That's the end of the first part of the Book of Enoch. We saw it begin with a prophecy. We then turned to the story of the Watchers and how they came to earth and caused so much chaos. And then we saw how Enoch tried to mediate for them and try to receive from God for them forgiveness, but God would not allow it. And that basically Enoch is then taken in this vision to heaven, and then he sees all of these fascinating wonders and goes on this journey seeing so many things, including weather, how the weather works, seeing how the stars work, and even getting to see the Garden of Eden and getting to see the place where God himself will rule on earth. It's a very fascinating thing. And then you got to love that last verse. It's like I said earlier, as a Christian, I don't believe that the Book of Enoch should be part of the Bible. I don't think most of it, if not all of it, comes from Enoch himself. Sure, I mean, maybe in theory, some of it comes from Enoch. I don't think we can necessarily prove that false. But I think a lot of this comes from Second Temple Jews kind of writing as though they were Enoch, so to speak. And I'm more than happy to change my mind on that if I can see better evidence. But even though I don't see this as canon, I really love that last verse. And that last verse, we can really take a lot of that to heart. I'm going to read that again. After Enoch had this journey, at the end of this part, it says, "And as often as I saw, I blessed always the Lord of glory. And I continued to bless the Lord of glory, who has wrought great and glorious wonders, to show the greatness of his work to the angels and to the spirits and to men, that they might praise his work in all his creation, and that they might see the work of his might and praise the great work of his hands and bless him forever." Even though I don't believe the Book of Enoch should be considered canon, I think that last sentence there, that last verse is really amazing. We too, just like this character Enoch, can look to the world that God created and we can bless him. He created an amazing world and he is the Lord of glory. And we can continue to bless him all the days of our life. And what's so cool is that this God shows us so much of the greatness of his works. It says, "And I continue to bless the Lord of glory, who has wrought great and glorious wonders to show the greatness of his work." It's like there are so many moments in our lives where God has shown us the greatness of his works, even if it's just waking up in the morning and going outside. And if you're in Christ as a Christian, as I believe that you have to be born again to be a member of the family of God. If you've been born again, confessed him as Lord, and submitted to him, and have asked for the forgiveness of your sins, and see who he is. Like basically, yeah, if you confess him as Lord and you are in him, you have so many blessings. And this God lives inside of you. And what's so great is that he wants to show you so many great things, great works that he has planned for you and also through you as well. So yeah, even though the book of Enoch may not be part of the Bible, that doesn't mean that there can't be kind of springboards that when we read it, it can kind of make our mind think of truths. And that doesn't mean there aren't half truths in it, like that last verse that we can enjoy. So next week, we're going to look at probably, I'm not going to make any like confident guesses of what next week looks like, because if I do that, I'm probably not going to do it. And then I'll kind of broken a, maybe not promise, but I wouldn't have kept my word. So I'm just going to be very broad here, and I'm going to be very much open to not actually doing this because my schedule can be crazy sometimes. So basically next week, hopefully what we'll do is we'll kind of look back at some of the verses that we've read here today and maybe get some like different people like Dr. Heiser and maybe some other different authors and hear their thoughts on some of these issues, like especially phrases like stuff like related to the Garden of Eden that Enoch saw, or the idea of God himself dwelling on that throne that we saw earlier. Like things like that's so fascinating. And to see how were people in the Second Temple Jewish period pondering and thinking about and reading about the future. Like we do that even to this day. We think about the future. And if this is indeed a Second Temple Jewish text, what we're reading today is Jewish people in the Second Temple period thinking about the future. Like I said, we do that today as well. Like just a few months ago, we had that person who was claiming the rapture would happen on September the something. And that did not happen. But right there, we had someone thinking about the future. And so even that's not anything new. Thinking about the future, pondering what the end of time will be like is nothing new. And the book of Enoch shows us that. So next week, Lord willing, we're going to look at that. We're going to look at ideas like the way Enoch is viewing the end times. And we're going to look at as well this phrase, the Lord of glory. Because what's so fascinating, and this could be pure coincidence. I'm not saying there's a guarantee is something here. But that phrase, the Lord of glory, when you look at that phrase in the Bible, that phrase is applied to Jesus. I believe it's only used once in the Bible, and that is in 1 Corinthians when it talks about the rulers crucifying the Lord of glory. It's Paul using it. And Paul wrote around the 1st century. And this passage in the book of Enoch was likely written, it was written during that Second Temple Jewish period, likely. So Paul probably would have read the book of Enoch. That wouldn't be too crazy to think about. So the question is that, and here we see in the book of Enoch, the Lord of glory applies to God. So the question is, when Paul called Jesus the Lord of glory, just like in the book of Enoch, when that refers to God, is Paul calling Jesus God right there? That's a neat thought. And we'll talk more about this next week. Thank y'all for joining me on this nice, fun journey through the book of Enoch. Today, we just finished chapter 36, finishing the book of the Watchers. If you're new to the book club of Enoch, the book club of Enoch is a live stream where we read through the book of Enoch and learn more about how to view it as Christians and ponder about this interesting book that has been controversial and wonder how should we use it and what does it actually say. So join us next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, where we will continue learning more about the book of Enoch. We will see you next time. Y'all have a great day.